Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. When the outbreak started, I was backstage at a high-end fashion show in downtown Manhattan. Lights flashing, photographers swarming, models whispering last-minute pep talks. I was wearing a sheer red gown from a designer whose name you'd recognize, and I had just posted a quick mirror selfie when the first screams echoed through the building. At first, I thought it was part of the show, some kind of twisted art piece. Fashion gets weird sometimes. But the look in the eyes of the assistant running toward us shattered that illusion. "They're attacking people out front," she gasped, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. "They're biting." The room froze. Someone laughed nervously. Another person rolled their eyes. But when she collapsed in front of us, clutching her arm, torn and soaked in crimson, that's when reality hit like a truck. Security was useless. The screams out front turned into chaos, and soon we heard crashing sounds and more shrieks, raw, guttural. Someone bolted, then another. A stampede of stilettos and glitter flew out the back entrance. I grabbed my boots and a black hoodie from my duffel. I wasn't sticking around to be the next headline. Outside, the city felt broken. Cabs abandoned, storefronts smashed, people running in every direction. One guy stood in the middle of the street, swaying, his shirt torn, eyes wide, face pale. I called out to him, but he didn't answer. He charged. I ducked, screamed, and ran, heart pounding like a bass drum. Behind me, I heard a thud and a wet crunch, followed by more growling. Whatever was happening, it wasn't just panic, it was something else, something worse. I cut through an alleyway near 47th, the sounds of sirens and screaming bouncing between buildings. My mind raced. Where do I go? Who do I call? My phone buzzed with alerts, emergency messages, social media posts filled with shaky videos and terrified faces. That's when I saw it for myself. A man, well, what was left of him, slumped against a wall, twitching, jaw snapping at the air. His legs were missing, not broken, gone, but he was still moving, still snarling. I backed away slowly. My heels crunched on glass. That's when a hand grabbed my ankle. I kicked hard, boot connecting with flesh. The thing groaned but didn't stop. Another one rounded the corner, then another. I ran again, lungs burning, blood pumping louder than the sirens. This wasn't just downtown, it was everywhere. The world had changed in an instant, and I was running through it in a hoodie and makeup from a runway show that no one would ever see again. I ducked into a parking garage on 50th, heart hammering like it wanted to escape my chest. The shadows were thick, and the scent of oil and damp concrete hit me hard. I leaned against a pillar trying to breathe quietly. Every sound made my skin crawl. That's when I realized my phone was still in my hand. My fingers were shaking too badly to type, but I tried to call my manager. Straight to voicemail. I tried my sister, no signal. I swallowed hard and crouched lower, eyes scanning the darkness. A distant groan echoed through the structure. Then footsteps, slow, dragging, and wrong. I slid behind a car and held my breath. A shape staggered past, not just injured, ruined. Its clothes were shredded, skin pale and torn, mouth hanging open in a twisted grin. I don't think it even had eyes anymore, just dark pits. It sniffed the air. I clamped a hand over my mouth. My phone buzzed, loud and shrill. The thing froze. I killed the screen with a trembling thumb, heart slamming into my ribs, but it was too late. It turned, groaning louder, arms twitching as it lurched toward the sound. I bolted, feet slipping on the slick floor, It chased me, stumbling faster than anything that broken should move. I reached the stairwell door and slammed it shut behind me, metal against metal. The sound echoed like a cannon. The stairwell smelled like smoke and sweat. I sprinted down 3 flights, my legs threatening to give out. My breath came in gasps. The whole city was unraveling, and I didn't know where to go. I reached street level and burst out into a different kind of madness. A bus had crashed into a street lamp, and the driver was slumped behind the wheel. People screamed, scattered, hid behind cars. A group tried to push a barricade across the intersection. It wouldn't hold. A man with a bat was trying to protect a woman and child, swinging wildly at anything that came close. He yelled at me, "Run!" I ran. I didn't stop until my legs gave out, collapsing behind a dumpster near a closed cafe. There, in the shadows, I checked my phone again. A live stream was still going. Some news anchor trapped inside a studio. Her voice shook as she described mass chaos, emergency lockdowns, shelters that had already been overrun. Then the screen glitched. Her voice cut out mid-sentence. Static. Gone. I curled into myself, shaking, not from the cold, from the truth finally sinking in. This wasn't some one-day scare. It wasn't an accident or a chemical spill or some strange protest gone wrong. This was real. This was the end of everything I'd known. I wasn't a supermodel anymore. I was just another person trying not to get caught. I sat behind that dumpster for what felt like hours, listening to distant sirens and the occasional scream. My once flawless dress was ripped at the hem, stained from grime and blood that wasn't mine. My boots, fashionable but sturdy, were the only reason I was still moving. That, and sheer panic. I peeked out. The street was quiet now, too quiet. Cautiously I moved. Slow, careful. Every step felt like a gamble. I passed what used to be a bakery, its glass front shattered. Someone had taken shelter there earlier, but now there were streaks of red on the counter and no sign of life. I ducked into a side street. There I saw her. A woman no older than me crouched behind an overturned food cart. She was whispering to herself, hugging a duffel bag tight. I approached slowly. "Hey," I whispered, "are you okay?" She flinched, then looked up, eyes wide, face pale. "You're not one of them?" I shook my head. "No, I'm just trying to survive." We sat together for a moment. Her name was Alina, used to be a dancer. She'd lost her friends in Times Square. "Everything fell apart so fast," she murmured, like someone flipped a switch. We decided to stick together. 2 heads, 2 pairs of eyes, it made sense. She had found a backpack with a small first aid kit and a bottle of water. I had a portable charger and some leftover protein bars from a shoot the day before. It wasn't much, but it was something. We headed north, ducking through alleys and abandoned shops, hoping to find a safe place. Anything. But what we found instead was horror. On 59th, we came across a city bus that had been turned into a makeshift barricade. It was silent. A few people lay nearby, unmoving. We thought maybe they were just hiding, sleeping, hurt. Alina stepped closer. One of them stirred. Then another. Their heads turned in perfect, unnatural sync. Their eyes glowed with something that didn't feel human. We ran. They followed. Not fast, but relentless. Like they knew we'd run out of steam before they did. We ducked into a pharmacy. I blocked the door with a shelf, and we caught our breath behind the counter. There, we found something useful. Bandages, energy drinks, protein bars. The shelves had already been looted, but not completely. While Alina kept watch, I found a hand mirror in the cosmetic aisle. I caught my reflection for the first time since the outbreak. My hair was a mess, my makeup streaked, my eyes weren't mine anymore. They were someone else's, someone trying not to fall apart. "Still look like a cover girl," Alina whispered with a tired smile. I tried to laugh, failed. None of this felt real, and yet it was, and we still had hours to go. We stayed in the pharmacy until nightfall. Alina had found a crowbar in the back office, and I kept a pair of scissors in my hoodie pocket. Not exactly runway gear, but right now it was survival wear. As darkness fell, the city changed again. The streets quieted, but not in a peaceful way. The kind of quiet you hear before something terrible happens. That's when the phone buzzed again. Barely any charge left, 1 bar of signal. A message from a group chat. "Anyone near East 70th? There's a group hiding in a loft. DM for the door code, be safe." It wasn't much, but it was hope. We made our way east, cutting through back streets and skirting around crashed cars. We passed what used to be a small boutique I'd done a shoot for last fall. Its windows were cracked, mannequins twisted and fallen. It looked like someone had tried to hold out inside, then given up. Then came the worst part of the night. Outside a damaged cafe, a girl was standing on the corner, live streaming. Yes, live streaming. She wore a pink tracksuit, pigtails, and enough highlighter to reflect moonlight. Her phone was mounted to a ring light strapped to a tripod. She looked straight into the lens and whispered, "Hey fam, still here, still strong. Don't forget to like and share." She didn't finish. From behind, one of them emerged, silent until the last second. Alina grabbed my hand and pulled. We ran before the scream even fully left the girl's throat. We didn't speak for blocks. What could we say? Some people clung to normalcy until the very end. Even when the world was falling apart, they were still trying to go viral. Eventually, we reached the building. East 70th, a loft-style apartment above a yoga studio. The code worked. The door buzzed open and we slipped inside. Inside, the tension eased. Not gone, but lighter. The place was dim, windows covered, lights low. A few candles flickered in the kitchen. There were 6 others, 4 women, 2 men, each with the same wide eyes and shaking hands. No one asked names. We just sat and shared what little we had. Water bottles, crackers, stories. A nurse spoke first. Her hospital had been overrun. A delivery guy had seen a bridge get blocked by military trucks. "They're trying to contain it," he said. "Too late, though. Way too late." No one disagreed. We all sat there in silence for a while. The candlelight danced across pale faces, and the sound of distant sirens became our lullaby. For the first time in hours, I let myself lean back against the wall and close my eyes. But sleep didn't come. Only the soft hum of fear. We had made it halfway through the first 12 hours, but sunrise felt years away. Around 3 a.m., something shifted. It was subtle, a tremor in the building, like a passing truck, except there were no trucks. Everyone froze. Then we heard it. A low rumble, followed by the sound of something heavy slamming against metal. Again, then again, louder each time. One of the girls peeked out the window through the blackout curtains. Her voice was barely a whisper. "They're outside." The street below had gone from empty to packed in minutes. Dozens of them, maybe more. They moved in slow jerks, like puppets on tangled strings. Some were crawling, some were missing limbs, but all of them were drawn to the building. Someone must have made noise, or left a window open. Maybe the smell of life was enough. We backed away from the door, hearts racing. "They can't get in," the delivery guy said. "It's locked." A loud crash. The front door had shattered like cardboard. "They're not supposed to be that strong," someone muttered. But they were. We grabbed what we could. The nurse had a kitchen knife. I kept my scissors clenched tight. Alina raised the crowbar again. One of the others, a tall guy in a flannel shirt, ran for the back exit, motioning for us to follow. "This way, emergency stairs." We sprinted after him, not looking back. Behind us, we heard glass shatter, metal twist, and something inhuman screeching. We burst out onto the emergency stairwell, feet pounding the steps as we descended. One of them lunged through a broken window and latched onto the delivery guy. He screamed, just once, before disappearing under a pile of hands. I didn't look. I couldn't. We hit the alley and ran like our lives depended on it. Because they did. That's when it truly hit me. No one was coming. There was no cavalry, no helicopters, no sirens to save us. Just concrete, shadows, and things that should have stayed in nightmares. We ducked into a parking garage. Again. This time, no hiding. We set up near the stairwell, blocking the door with a stack of tires and an old wooden table. We sat in a circle, breathing heavy, covered in sweat, grime, and worse. There were 4 of us now. Me, Alina, the flannel guy, he said his name was Mike, and the nurse who finally told us hers, Dana. The city around us moaned and groaned like it was alive. The undead weren't just roaming anymore, they were hunting. We had no idea if this infection, if that's what it was, had started here or spread here. But what we did know was simple. We weren't safe. Not anywhere. Mike checked his watch. 4:19 a.m. "We just have to make it to morning," he whispered. But morning felt like another lifetime away. The garage was cold, every sound echoed, our breathing, distant movement, the occasional groan rising from deeper inside the structure. It had been abandoned long before we got there, which somehow made it worse, like we were hiding in someone else's forgotten grave. We took turns, sleeping in 20-minute shifts. Dana couldn't stop shaking. Mike stayed by the barricade, eyes fixed on the stairwell. Alina sat beside me, knees tucked under her chin, clutching the crowbar like it was a childhood blanket. I kept my scissors in my hand. Not that they do much. There was one moment, maybe half an hour in, when I closed my eyes and drifted. I dreamt of a photoshoot in Paris. The lights, the wind machine. My stylist yelling at me to give more jaw. Then I woke up and realized the wind was real. A draft, coming from below. Mike turned to us. "We need to go, now." The others blinked at him, confused, half awake. I just saw something move, not down the stairs up. His voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to snap us into motion. There was no time for discussion. We gathered our things and climbed over the barricade. I paused just long enough to peek through the crack in the door. A shadow shifted across the far wall. Slow, deliberate. Something in that darkness knew exactly where we were. We slipped out the back entrance and into the freezing air. The streets had changed again. Fires burned unchecked. Cars were smashed and flipped. Storefronts once covered in glamour and LED lights were now broken teeth and a jagged smile of a city gone mad. We headed south, avoiding open spaces. Our goal? Central Park. It sounded crazy, but Mike said the open space would help. More visibility. Fewer enclosed places to get trapped. And if anyone was being evacuated, they'd need a clear landing zone. Maybe helicopters, maybe a convoy. Maybe. We made it 3 blocks before we saw the fire. A small boutique, one I used to visit, was completely engulfed. Orange flames danced through shattered windows. But what really stopped us was the people. Not infected, just regular people. They were burning clothes, designer shoes, dresses, scarves, the kind I used to model. "We can't wear them anymore," one woman sobbed. "It doesn't mean anything now. It never did." No one argued. We kept walking. That part hit harder than I expected. Maybe because it was my old world. Runways and spotlights, fast edits and fake smiles, going up in smoke. Or maybe because I knew deep down she was right. Those things couldn't save us now. In the distance, a low thrum began. A sound that didn't belong to the city. A helicopter. We all looked up at once, scanning the sky. There. A single aircraft moving west to east, low and fast. No spotlight, no announcements. Just a whisper of hope in a sky filled with ash. We ran. Didn't speak. Didn't stop. Just ran. We reached the edge of the park just after 5 a.m. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the sky had begun to fade from pitch black to a cold steel blue. Trees swayed in the early morning wind. Birds should have been singing, but they were silent, like even nature didn't want to draw attention. For a moment, I let myself believe we'd made it, that this big open space would be our safe zone. But Central Park wasn't empty. Shapes moved through the mist. At first, we thought it was smoke, but then one of them stepped into view. A man, shirt torn, arms hanging limp. His head tilted unnaturally to the side. Behind him, dozens more followed. They were in the park. Already. Mike whispered, "We go around the north trail. Stay low, don't stop." So we ran. Again. I lost track of time, of direction. Trees blurred past. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. Alina tripped once. Nearly fell into a ditch, but I grabbed her arm and yanked her back up. She didn't thank me, didn't need to. We kept moving. At the top of a hill, we stopped just long enough to scan the horizon. The helicopter, we could still hear it, somewhere nearby. Then, lights. Not bright, not flashing, but steady and white, headlights from a convoy parked at the far side of the park near a closed-off road. Mike grinned for the first time. There, that's it. The path leading there was a long open stretch of grass. No cover, no turns, just space. And at the far end, shadows waiting. "They're guarding the vehicles," Dana said softly. "We have to go through them." No one argued. There was no other way. Alina gripped the crowbar tighter. On my count. I wanted to say something brave, something inspiring, but all that came out was, "Let's go." We sprinted. The grass was wet with dew and something darker. Our feet slapped against the ground. The infected turned at the sound. Slow at first, then faster. Limbs swinging wildly, mouths open, hungry. Mike swung his bat. Alina slammed the crowbar into a figure lunging at Dana. I ducked, twisted, kicked one away. One grabbed my sleeve. I stabbed it in the throat with the scissors and kept running. 20 feet. 10. Shots rang out. Someone from the convoy had seen us. Then hands reached out and pulled us through a gate. Soldiers. Real ones. They slammed the door behind us, sealing the infected outside. We collapsed to the pavement. Alive. Barely. The soldiers didn't ask who we were. They didn't check IDs. They just moved with purpose, shouting orders, securing perimeters, loading people into trucks. Dana was crying. Not loudly, just silent, relieved tears. Mike sat with his head in his hands, shaking. Alina stared straight ahead, jaw tight. I looked back at the park, at the trees and shadows and broken quiet, and I finally let myself believe we'd made it to morning. Almost. The trucks were military style, no logos, no colors, Just matte gray beasts with thick wheels and even thicker armor. They moved like everything else was made of paper. We were ushered into one near the back. Inside, it smelled like oil and old bandages. There were others too, maybe a dozen people, all with that same hollow-eyed look, survivors, whatever that meant now. A medic handed out blankets and tiny water bottles. No questions, no small talk. We didn't ask where we were going. I sat beside Alina. Her hands were trembling, even though she tried to hide it. Dana had fallen asleep against the wall, lips parted slightly, her chest rising and falling in small, careful breaths. Mike kept checking the window, like danger might sprint alongside us and jump in at any moment. The engine hummed. I leaned back, closed my eyes and tried to breathe. Tried to think. Tried to be someone again. But who was I now? I spent my life in front of cameras, chasing perfection, fitting into a mold so tight I forgot what real life felt like. Every outfit, every look, every step on the catwalk, curated and controlled. And now, control was gone. Fame, worthless. Beauty, disposable. The only thing that mattered was how fast you could run and how well you could think under pressure. Whether or not you froze when danger knocked. Whether or not you got back up when someone fell. The truck hit a bump. Jarring us all, I caught myself and looked outside. The city was behind us now. Smoke curled into the morning sky. Sirens wailed in the far distance. The undead still wandered the streets like broken echoes of who they used to be. But we were alive. I don't know where we were headed. Maybe a shelter, maybe a base, maybe just farther away from what the world had become. But I knew one thing, this wasn't the end. Not for us. Not yet. There'd be more nights, more running, more losses. But also more chances. To fight, to protect. To remember who we were before the world cracked open and let the nightmare in. As we drove on, I rested my head against the cold metal wall and whispered the only promise I could keep. I'm not just surviving, I'm living. And if the lights ever came back on, if the cameras ever rolled again, if the world ever rebuilt itself, they'd know I made it. Not because I was famous, not because I was pretty, but because I refused to fall. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.